I wanted to make a video response directly to what Stan had brought up about the Confused Matthew forums, and he focused on the positive things, and I love the positive aspects, and I completely agree with him. There's so much great things, but I do want to mention the negative aspects because I have to deal with those on a somewhat regular basis. Now, it's not a huge task because thankfully, and it's to your credit, that there hasn't been a lot of times that I have those negative experiences. But the reality of it is, people don't like it when you tell them to follow the rules, and they get mad at the person that's telling them to follow those rules. And since I'm the one telling them they have to follow these rules, I'm the one they get mad at. There's so many examples I could give you guys of encounters I've had of that nature, but I'll just settle on a couple. And you have to realize it's nothing personal when I do these things. They're just things I do because it's the way that I have to maintain some sort of order. Okay, one situation happened where a user had a signature that had a religious seeming quote in there, and I just got rid of the whole thing. They also had a picture in there, I believe, and they got upset first that they were like, well, that wasn't offensive, why did you get rid of it? And then they were upset that I got rid of their whole thing. And I said, well, you certainly have, you can put a different thing there, or I could just turn it off completely and you can't have a signature. Which one do you want? So I was kind of in that position where I was like, well, I could have just turned the whole thing off. These are the rules. It's not about if it's offensive or not offensive. It's just that we've decided that there's not going to be any political, religious stuff. And there's a reason for that, a very good reason for that. And the big reason is that political religious talk more often than not turns into people saying you're a poopy head, and that's just something that's just so hard to moderate. It's really hard to keep people under control. There's a lot of feelings and passion and whatever. If I made this post, okay, for example, let's take the political route. If I went to the forums right now and I said nobody should be allowed to carry a gun, how many people do you think would respond in anger about that post? They'd be like, oh, how dare you say nobody should be allowed to carry a gun, I have the right to carry a gun. I would just get booed off very quickly by those passionate about having guns. So it's just ridiculous to have those things. I think at some point we may have a political thread, we may have a religious thread, but if we do, it will be very narrowed on a specific aspect of it. And we already did have a political thread about one thing that had been going on, and it died out. Nobody really wanted to talk about that. So, there will be times that we override our own rules, and that's just something that the moderators and the administrators can do from time to time, is change our rules and decide what the rules are. And that might not seem fair, but it's a dictatorship. We make the rules, you guys follow them. And to say that we don't follow our own rules is unfair too. We do follow our own rules, but there are times when we may feel it's appropriate to open a discussion about certain aspects of political stuff or religious stuff. Okay, another example of negative stuff is I had to lock a topic. I didn't want to lock it. I wanted the person that was talking about the thing, I wanted them to really understand what they were talking about. The subject that they decided to talk about was a subject that they clearly did not know enough about to really engage in a intelligent conversation about that subject. As such, the post and the thread became nothing more than I want you guys to look at what I've said, even though what I say makes absolutely no sense. So it basically went from this could have been something very interesting to this is nothing more than spam. So I locked it, and I tried desperately to explain what the problem was with it, and the user was just so upset about it, and finally I had to just drop it. I mean, there was nothing more I could do to explain why I had locked it, or why they weren't doing what I thought would be beneficial. And I did eventually just delete the topic because I didn't want to leave it there and leave that bad taste in their mouth of, you know, this is like a testimony to how not to do things or whatever. I didn't like doing that. I didn't enjoy that negative experience, and I very much am upset that we couldn't find, that they couldn't see my point, and that unfortunately I'm in the position where I'm right even when I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I make a choice, I have to kind of stick by it. There has been times when I've looked at a decision I've made and I've said, well, maybe that wasn't the best decision. But more often than not, I'll have to stick by that decision. Not always. There's always exceptions to the rule. I created a topic that said advertise yourself here, advert yourself here, so that people could post their YouTube channel or their MySpace or whatever. And I thought this would get like a zillion posts, but it's not something that people really care about doing as much as I thought they would. But that was kind of a rule that was created to try to make sure that there wasn't a lot of mass advertising going on and this sort of thing. I think people have, in general, now to go back to the positive side of stuff, in general speaking, when I have private message people asking them to stop doing something or to start doing something else, the response has generally been positive. They might complain and grumble about it, but at the end of the day, they begin to listen to what I had to say. They begin to pull back. They stop doing what I asked them to stop doing. A lot of the times it's dealing with the following. People will make a response to somebody else's post that basically says, your post was bad spelling, so I didn't read it, or your post was too long, so I didn't read it. And I always ask these people, don't do that, okay? There's no reason to make a post just to tell somebody you didn't read what they said. That's stupid. And as far as spelling goes, not everybody speaks English, and those of us that do speak English don't always know how to spell things right. So if you're so hard up for spelling it right, go grab their entire post, copy and paste it, put it into a Google spell check it yourself, then read it, then come back and say, okay, I've spell checked your post, and now I was able to read it, and after reading it, you have some great things to say. Don't even bring up the spelling part, okay? I know you know how to read it, even when it's spelled horribly. So let's just not bring up that issue. It's an issue that if you have a problem with it, ask me, and I'll deal with that user, and I'll ask them if they could slow down or maybe spell check a few things before they post. Don't ask me to do it, because I won't do it. Sorry, end of story there, but I just won't spell check things I have. If you can't read what I wrote, too bad. Okay, but you know, again, that's the way I am. But I have seen people that when I ask them to do something or not to do something, they will do it or not do it. And that is, again, to your guys' credit. And I thank you for that. I ask you to please always try to keep an open mind when I ask you to not do something. It's because I'm trying to make the forums a better place. Thank you. Peace out.